Welcome to episode 4. You guys are in for a real treat today with guest Ryan Stewman, also known as the Hardcore Closer. Ryan shares his most impactful moments in life and major life lessons. Grab a pen and paper and be prepared to be inspired to unleash your inner legend. This is Unleash Your Inner Legend, a podcast featuring modern day legends sharing their life choices, habits, and routines that got them to where they are today. Get ready to be inspired and to take massive action to unleash your inner legend. Welcome to Unleash Your Inner Legend podcast. It's Hollie here, and I am so excited about today's guest. His story is amazing, and what he has accomplished in life is incredible. I'm talking about 6-time bestseller author, Hardcore Closer, Ryan Stewman. Welcome, Ryan.
What's up, Hollie? Good to see you again, as always.
Yeah, for sure. So, I'm sure those listening have heard about Ryan, and if you're living underneath a rock, let me just kind of bring you up to speed. He writes for Forbes, Entrepreneur, Addicted to Success, Good Man Project, Lighter Side of Real Estate, and Huffington Post. He's the CEO of Hardcore Closer, founder of Break Free Academy, the leader of modern marketplace sales training. So now that everybody's caught up to speed of who you are, just wanted to give you a shout out because you're the real deal. I know with social media, it's so easy for people to create like a front or an ideal image. And then you meet them in person, they're like nothing what their public persona is. And got the opportunity to, I think connect with you the first time was whenever you came to the mastermind in Utah. And it was super impressive how authentic you are and like your story and everything. So just wanted to share my appreciation with how you are as a person on the internet and then also as in person as well.
I appreciate it. We're fortunate enough to where we've actually known each other in person for a long time. Like we don't really communicate except for in real life, if you think about it, and because same with Jay and Mike, usually we're not like internet communicators. We're actually together in the same deal. So I'm gonna let you in on a little quick, like 30-second joke to warm things up here real quick. So the waitress so we have a mutual friend for those listening. We have a mutual friend named Jay Kender, and we both belong to the same fancy club. And last time I was with Hollie, her and John were there with us having dinner. And so the waitress oftentimes confuses me with Jay. So occasionally I get free drinks at that place because the waitress thinks that I'm Jay. And I mean, if she calls me Mr. Kender, I'm just going to fucking go along with it, right? So we'll just keep that as our little internal secret there to warm things up for the show.
That's awesome. Oh, man. So as I said earlier, your story is amazing. And what I'd like the goal for this episode to be is to really go through your life journey and dissect the choices and then the outcomes from them. And then also pick up on the habits that you've instilled in your life to live your best life. So how does that sound?
Cool. Let's do it.
Awesome. So let's talk about like life events, either negative or positive, that have had a major impact on your life. What's the most impactful moment that you've had that really shaped your life?
I would say becoming a dad, and I know a lot of people probably think that too, because I mean, shit, it's like a very, very big deal. All of a sudden like with your significant other, you got a commitment, but there's like a way to back out. You know what I mean? You can always get a divorce or split up or whatever. Like with your kid, that's like definitely not an option. At least never been in my book. And so that was a life-altering thing, and when I saw, and as a parent, but like, when my oldest son was born, something inside of me, man, I gotta be bigger and play bigger than I'm playing now. And it was a huge risk because in order to do that, I had to take my family, my then wife, we're divorced now, but my wife at the time and my young infant son, and move in with like my in-laws, and really I sacrificed, a lot. So social clout, right? Because now all of a sudden I live with my in-laws, but I had to do all these things in order to build a business, and I didn't want to stay working for somebody else and go through some of the risks that I'd already endured in the past. I thought the best bet would be for me to make that bet on myself. And I sold my house, I sold my furniture, I sold everything but my computer, and put all the money in the bank in order to become an entrepreneur. So I really did risk it all. But having my oldest son made me go, shoot, like I got a big, huge responsibility here. And that would definitely be like the biggest moment of my life. So in a way, my son inspired me to go all in on myself as an entrepreneur.
The focus of your life had changed because now it's me, you're selfish. You can be reckless, you can be careless, but now it's like, oh shit, I got to take care of somebody else that's depending upon me by the choices I made to have him, right?
Yeah, it's like accidental accountability,
So let's talk about what led you to the point you are today. Obviously you're not an overnight success. Everybody knows that it takes in a lot of hard work. What are some of the things that you've picked up along the way and you've used them to your advantages, like lessons learned?
That's a good question, because I think I have a little bit more experience with a lot of things than the average person does. This isn't my first time to be successful. I've had it, lost it, had it, given it away, lost it again, so on and so forth, right? And so I've learned a lot of lessons. And, but people a lot of times refer to me as an expert in whatever field it is. And the way to become an expert is by doing experiments. That's how you gain experience, right? Yep. And sometimes your experiences don't work out. I mean, you look at a guy like Thomas Edison, it was like, 10,000 and something attempts that he blew the light bulb up before he actually got it right. Like, if that dude's alive today and he's like blowing up light bulbs on social media, he's like the laughing stock of the internet, right? He's probably on medicine locked away somewhere. We're just like sitting over here in the dark or some shit, right? But instead, like, persistence got him that. So I've learned a lot of lessons. I've had, 10,000 light bulbs blow up in my face as well. And one of those lessons is that and this is going to go really deep, really fast, but I believe that you need to hear it, that there is an unseen force on this planet that we call the force of average. And it's almost as if it's a virus that's infected this planet. I've watched it catch me multiple times and watched it catch some of my clients, my friends, family members along the way, where you'll be on top of the world and then somehow, some way you end up going subterranean to make up for being on top of the world. Let me give you an example. We see people that win the lottery and then go bankrupt, right? They're on top of the world, hundreds of millions of dollars, then shit, they owe more money than they have, right? Like a short period of time later, that would be an example of the force of average. That puts them back on an average life because they were rich, lost it, were super poor, dismissed it, now they're back to average. So there's a force on this planet. The way that it gets you average, the way that it keeps you average is by distracting you. Now, the reason I share that with you is because the biggest lesson I've ever learned in all my 39 years on this planet, success, incarceration, divorce, more success, whatever that you want to point out to the pinpoints of my life, is I learned that the most powerful thing on this planet is focus. And as a human being, when you can become focused, now I'll explain what focus is in a minute, because being very vague in language is not focus. So I'll be more specific so you can actually focus on what matters in a minute. But focus, and it's such a powerful tool, it's such a weapon that we have as human beings, that when we get focused on doing the banking system, when we get focused on disrupting governments, when we get focused on going to the moon, when we get focused on disrupting industries, look at Uber or Airbnb, or when a human being gets focused on something, it happens, okay? So the force of average's job is to keep you distracted. Every day we see 5,000 advertisements. We have to make between 22 and 25,000 different decisions every single day. These are all things that are keeping us distracted, because the force of average knows that when you become focused, you become unstoppable. Even at a young age, your teachers will tell you that you have attention deficit disorder and that you can't pay attention, you can't focus, and none of that's true. And so now that I understand that focus is the most important tool, I want to get in the zone as much as possible. Here's the thing, though, I don't want to do drugs. Right? Some people, they go and they Adderall helps them get in the zone. Or if you go to Silicon Valley, it might be LSD that helps you get in the zone, because it's like there's big talking about microdosing and stuff like that. For me, I want to know what to focus on, right? Because I understand that focus isn't just like staring at something, right? Focus is having a vision for something that you want to make real and then taking the action to match that vision to a reality. And so if I'm going to focus on something, I have to know what I'm going to focus on. This is why goal planning is such a big deal. But there's 4 areas in life that we call the G code that we focus on. Area number 1 is having a grateful mindset. You have to focus on being grateful for what you have, right? Because you'll never get what's next if you don't appreciate what's now. And even if you do get what's next, you won't appreciate it, and you'll always be chasing what's next, and you'll never be satisfied. The true balance that we find in life is not this work-life balance. The true balance that we've got to chase in life is the balance between wanting what's next and being happy and grateful for what's now. So many people are all about what's next and they don't appreciate what's now, right? They're all about, when their kid grows up and they miss the plays and they miss their first years in football and sports, or they miss their practices or whatever. They're all about making millions of dollars and they miss those good moments where you just get some small wins in your business when you first start, which many people out there listening can probably agree that, like, if you don't live in the moment and appreciate that, you won't appreciate it when you hit big licks either. So you got to have a grateful mindset. The next G in the G code is your genetics. You want to make sure that you take care of your genetics. That's not just working out, lifting weights, or whatever it is, yoga that you want to do, whatever your exercise preference is, as long as your exercise preference isn't none, right? So, but exercising and eating right. And I'm not talking about like, look, I'm here to tell everybody I'm a vegan or nothing like that, right? I don't have any of that kind of news for you. Like, instead of eating a whole hamburger, like maybe eat 3/4. Instead of eating a large fry, maybe try a medium, and eventually work your way down to a small. Maybe eat a little bit slower, right? Just like maybe try some different stuff, right? Instead of going to McDonald's for a hamburger, maybe go somewhere else and get a turkey burger, right? Like, just little tiny changes add up over time, right? Just think about it like, if you shave a couple calories a day, just think of that as like money in the bank. But working on your genetics, the last thing you want to do is, have a great life with your family and have a whole bunch of money, and then you got to give all that money and the time you could have spent with your family to a hospital. That's not how we want to go out. The third G is your grind, right? That's your job. The grind, the axe that you got to grind every single day to make things happen, right? Whether you like your job or not, it's still something you have to focus on. But most people listening to this are entrepreneurs. So, like I said, that's something that you have to focus on. And there is no work-life balance. If you work 10 hours a day, you got to sleep 6 hours a day. That's 16 hours a day that's automatically gone out of 24. How the hell are you going to balance that shit out, right? So instead, what you have to do is make the time that you're focused on work count, and the time that you're focused on family and all that stuff count too. So like for me, if I'm only with the family 2 hours a day, cool. I just make those 2 hours count.
Yeah.
Not there for 2 hours on the phone or whatever. The last G is the group of people that you're hanging around. Right? From your employees to your family members, to your friends, to the referrals, to the clients, like whoever it is that's in your life, right? You should constantly be rating people. And so I know that that's not popular opinion, but you know what? Neither's being successful in today's day and age. And it's not popular as well. It's something everybody wants, very few are willing to do. But you should be rating the people around you. Like, are they operating at high levels, right? You should be rating them on 1 to 10, not how good looking they are, but you should be rating them on a few things, like how big of a giver are they in the relationship, right? Are they constantly reading books and doing things that allow them to level up? I got off the phone this morning with one of our friends, Dustin Black, and he was telling me that he's adding 26 locations in the next couple months to his company, right? That's somebody who's always been in my circle rated a 10 because he's always on to the next level. He told me he just spent $3,000 to go spend a few days with Gary Vee. That's the kind of friends that I keep in my network. Dustin and I have been friends for almost 10 years now for that reason, but I'm constantly surveying. There's been some people that were 5s and 6s along the way that I had to let go. And here's why, because if you hang out with 10s, you'll either become a 10, or even if you were destined to become a 7, you'll at least become an 8, right? Because they'll lift you up a little bit higher than you were destined. But if you were supposed to be an 8 and you hang around 5s, they will bring your ass down to 6 quick as hell. So you got to stay away from it. And it doesn't mean you have to be rude and be like, guys are losers, not hanging out with you anymore. Shift your focus on making the relationships that with the 10s matter the most. And so that's what I've learned. Those 4 things are what you have to get focused on. And I've learned about how powerful focus is. And so because of that, I win every day. I know, because that's what I'm focused on. I'm focused on a win in my genetics. I'm focused on a win with the group of people I'm with. I'm focused on a win in a grateful mindset. And I'm focused on a win in my grind every single day. It's absolutely changed the game. If there's like one piece of advice that I can give anybody, it would be like, don't complicate what I just taught you, right? What I just taught you is all religious books and universal scientific data all boiled down into a couple of paragraphs so that you could easily understand and digest it and just do it and not question it,
For sure. I love that. And, you had mentioned too, you briefly talked about being incarcerated, which I wanted to talk on that because it's incredible how you've turned that around. I know a lot of people, and myself included, they just struggle with so many limiting beliefs that are up here in our head. But now, like when you're incarcerated, now you have the struggle of not only do I have my limiting beliefs hold me back, but now I have a record, and a lot of people allow that to ruin their life or define them. So, I just want to talk about, like, how did you manage to break through that cliche of having a criminal past and then now this is who you are?
Well, there's stories every day, if you look in the news, about somebody who's a criminal who turned their life around. It's through something other than sports. I just saw a deal today where a convicted felon was homeless and made millions of dollars digging swimming pools that look like a beach for people in their backyard, right? So there's always those stories. And so I knew it was possible, right? Just like I know it's possible to squat 1,000. I don't want to, but I'm saying I know it's possible to squat 1,000 pounds because somebody's done it out there, right? So we know it's possible to run a 4-minute mile because somebody's done it. So I knew that there have been people come out on the other side of prison and still be okay. So what I did, and I made this decision long time ago, because I've been in some dark situations in my life, but I made this decision a long time ago. I just wasn't good about articulating it the way that it was in my head maybe 20 years ago. But throughout my life, I've had a lot of dark times, right? Like we all have dark times that we go through, whether it's something that happened in your childhood or something that you get divorced or a healthcare scare or whatever it is, something with your kids. Like there's always something that shakes us up and puts us in a dark time. It's just a period of learning for us as human beings. It's not something to be, no matter what it is, it's not something to be ashamed of or anything else. It's just a period of learning for us. Some of us never learn though, but those of us that learn from the dark periods tend to spend more time in the light. But when I was 7 years old, my parents went on a vacation a few hours. We drove a few hours away to San Antonio, Texas. And along Interstate 35, there's a place called Inner Space Cavern. And it's a cave that you can go in, and it takes you down to the bottom of this cave or whatever, right? And as a kid, I'd never been in a cave. There's not a lot of caves, as you know, in Texas. So, it was like, cool. So we go down to the bottom, and they like kill the lights. And they're like, this is total darkness. Now, I don't know how true what I'm about to say is because I've never thought to Google this shit. So don't shoot me down, okay? But they said, this is total darkness. If you spend 12 hours in total darkness, like you can't even see your fingers wave in front of your face. I mean, it's like completely dark. You spend 12 hours in total darkness, your mind starts to wander. If you spend 24 hours, you start to go insane. If you spend 72 hours, there's no coming back, right? Like because your eyes can't see or make out with anything, you just lose your damn mind, okay? Most people, when they get into total darkness, right, their lower spots in life, rock bottom, some folks call it, right? They focus on that darkness. And the guy was telling a story. He said, if you were to get trapped down here, what would you do? And all of us said, dude, I don't know, man. It was so dark. You couldn't believe it. He said, the first thing you do is you listen. You listen for running water, because running water is always going towards the light. And you just feel your way to the water and eventually work your way out of here, right? And so the reason why I share that is in my life, anytime I've been in total darkness, when I can't see what the outcome is going to be, I listen, right? There's always this voice in the back of our head that's guiding us towards this light. The problem is most of us are out here trying to get drunk, and fucked up, and high, and everything else, and sex and everything to try to disguise that voice. The voice is like, you're destined to become a best-selling author. And you're like, shut up, voice. I'm trying to drink Coors Light over here, damn it, And I've learned to listen to that voice. And I also learned that if you focus on total darkness, you'll end up going insane. If you focus on the problem that you have, right? The fact that you're going through divorce, the fact that you're struggling with a startup business, if you focus on that, and that's what you focus on, we all know that you get what you focus on. So if you focus on the problem, you just keep getting the problem. Instead, focus on finding the light at the end of the tunnel. Get focused on the solution. And once you get on the light side of things, you can leave the darkness further behind you. And so every period of time, whether it was being incarcerated, or whether it was being adopted, or whether it was being divorced, or whether my business was failing, or having to start all over from scratch, or whatever it was, I never focused on that problem. I focused on the solution. I never worried about the total darkness. I just kept my ear to the grind so I could eventually find my way towards the light. And all it does is, man, once you can see that light, you know exactly where to go from there. All you got to do is see the little tiniest glimmer of light, and you know exactly where to go from there. Problem is, most of you see the light and go like this. You just like raise your hand over your eyes and shit. You're like, give me a Coors Light. That light's bright, right? I like focusing on the darkness over here, but that's not how you win. So
Yeah. And, and I can kind of relate to that myself because I've been on antidepressants. I've been on anti-anxiety medicine and really thinking about back those times when I did do that, it was to numb my current reality that I had the power to change. And instead of changing that current reality, a lot of us try to numb it, whether it be alcohol, prescription drugs, or I guess non-prescribed drugs too, just whatever it is. It's just really identifying that there is an issue, there's a problem, and you need to work on the solution and not try to figure out how to get numb to being the current reality you're in. That's great. I love that. So, let's talk about the force of averages. How do you identify and be aware of that it's happening? Like, oh shit, this is a force of averages. How do you stop that and then pivot before it brings you down?
So it has one job, and that's to distract you. So how do you stay focused if that's the weapon that fights it? So the key is, how do you stay focused? For me, I have a calendar. I live and die by a calendar. As an entrepreneur, you don't have a boss. You don't have a supervisor or a manager or anybody like that, like looking over your shoulder going, did you do your work? Are you on time? Like, you don't have that. You own your own business. You're the top of the food chain. So you know what? Naturally, we still need to be led. I was just listening to a book called $1 Trillion Coach about this guy named Bill Patterson, who once sat, or he was an advisor to Steve Jobs and Eric Schmidt with Google. And one of the things that he talks about in that book's a great book, by the way. But, this whole idea behind the force of average, right, is we don't have a boss. And so we don't have a manager. And even when we become an entrepreneur, we don't have those things. In this book, Google at one time, they got rid of all of management, right? And so all these people that are engineers making tons of money, that are super smart, they got nobody to report to. And so Bill Patterson told Eric Schmidt, he said, dude, they've got to have managers. And he goes, but they don't want managers. He goes, come with me. And he wrapped his arm around the guys. These are high-level engineers for Google, right? And he goes up to him and he says, hey, man, Bill Patterson says, how would you like it if you had a manager? He goes, man, if it's somebody I could learn from, I would love that. Next guy. Hey, how would you like to have somebody that managed you? Would you like to have a supervisor? If I could learn from them, I'd love it. Hey, lady, how would you say across the board? So we need to be led no matter what level we're on. Problem is, we get to our level, there's nobody leads you every single day. Now, you can hire a mentor, a coach, these kind of things, right? But be in a mastermind or whatever, but you don't have somebody who's monitoring you. Did you get your work done, right? No teachers asking for your homework anymore. And so for me, the calendar is huge, right? Because it keeps me focused on what I need to do. And I calendar everything. I'm talking about from my personal life. Like, if you look at my calendar this morning, it says stop by the Can Academy, get your hair cut at 9 a.m. Like, dude, I have meetings with a friend of mine for drinks tonight, and it's on there. Like, my whole life is by this calendar. And I can look at that, and that's the accountability partner. That's my manager, my supervisor, whatever you want to call it, looking over my shoulder. Because, like, if you look, I mean, it's right there on my screen at all times. Like, I live and die by this thing. And that's how I know what to stay focused on. Guess what? When there's free time on the calendar, then I can be distracted. And see, then I let the force of average in my life on my terms.
Got it. That makes sense. And you know what? One thing too, is your background, like how you're really blown up is like the power of social media and utilizing it and selling on social media. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that, because it's like, what method, talking about being focused, it's so easy. Even when you wake up and you go through social media, you're automatically allowing your brain to be accepting distraction and rewiring itself to be on, reactive mode instead of responsive mode. So what method do you use to be intentional with your time spent on social media so that your brain isn't conditioned to be distracted?
Yeah, so that actually goes back and plays into the G code. So I have an actual daily routine.
Yeah.
And it's not something that I can sum up in the next 5 or so minutes that we have left on the program here, but I can give you the gist of it quickly. So first thing I do every morning when I wake up is I work on the first G in the G code, gratitude. So I write down 5 things I'm grateful for. I'm talking about first thing. I don't get up and drink water, take a pill, use the restroom. I write down 5 things I'm grateful for immediately. And what this does is this kickstarts your brain into being thankful for being alive as soon as you wake up. The next thing is I go to the gym, work on genetics, the second part of the G code, right? So I go to the gym and I have a personal trainer because I need somebody to hold me accountable. That's just how life works. And if I'm going to get maximum results, and if I'm going to do anything, I'm going to do it all in. And if I'm going to have maximum results, it's going to be somebody else who helps me achieve them. But that doesn't mean I like doing it. And because of that, I will sit out in front of the gym for an extra 10 or 15 minutes before I go in there every morning. And that's when I write my daily Facebook post. And usually at that moment, it's something in me is like, think of anything not to go in the gym. And so I really have good creative thoughts at that moment, because I really don't like going in there and torturing myself for an hour of just being, I've been doing this for 20 years and I still don't like it. It never gets easy. And so I write my social media posts in the morning, but I have a routine that I've done that, you know what I mean? And I've taught myself, hey, at this time. But what happens is I leave my house and it's about a 10-minute drive to the gym. So for 10 minutes, I'm listening to an audiobook. And so I haven't turned on, the gangster rap shit that I usually listen to yet. It's 10 minutes of an audiobook. So think about this. I've got up, wrote down what I'm grateful for, drank some water, hopped in the truck, go to the gym, listening to something that's motivational on the way to the gym, a book or whatever. So my mind's already starting to work in that direction, that when it comes time for me to post on social media, I've got some thoughts coming to me, right? From there, go back, go to work, take care of my grind for the day. In the evening time, take care of my group of people, whether it's friends, family, or whatever, depends on what I got for the day. Then the last thing I do before I go to sleep is I go back to that same piece of paper that I wrote the 5 things down on in the morning, and I write down everywhere that I want. So I look at my calendar and I'm like, Hollie Kitchens, 1 p.m. podcast. Dude, we crushed that thing. I'm going to write that down as a win. The next time I can see Jeff McPherson. And so I write down everywhere. So here's the thing. I'm going to wrap it up with this. I wake up every morning being grateful for something, and I go to sleep every night knowing I'm a winner. That's a really hard mentality. It's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to do it one day and go, wow, dude, my life is different, right? It doesn't happen like that. But I've been doing it for 513 days, I think today is, this routine. I'm telling you, Hollie's know me, I'm not the same person I was. I was a beast before I'm an animal now, or maybe I was an animal before I'm a beast now. I don't know the difference, right? But either way, like, it has completely changed who I am because I'm living by this code, and it's not even been 2 years yet. And so saying all that, right, at the end of the day, you go to sleep a winner. Now, anytime you've had a bad day, anytime some shit happens in the middle of the day, because the force of average loves to just like sneak up, wave at you, and then slap the shit out of you, right? That's just what it loves to do. But and I learned this from David Goggins, I can go back to that notebook or that Evernote or that Word doc or wherever you write down the things that you're grateful for in your daily wins. And when I'm having a bad day, when I feel like a loser, when I lost at something, I can go back and I can remind myself of everything I have to be grateful for, and that every day I win no matter what. And that's what keeps me focused on those 2 things, being grateful and winning. It comes to become unstoppable at some point because you focus you flex that focus muscle so much that it knows to focus on those 2 things, and it looks for it. Almost like when I bought my first supercar. I bought this McLaren. I'd never seen a freaking McLaren on the street in my life. I buy it. Next thing you know, freaking McLaren's everywhere. There's even a couple people I do, and McLaren's deep into this thing now, and somebody even has it over in the city that I live in. So, but I wasn't focused on it before because I didn't know it was there. So what I just gave your listeners is the plan of what's there and to focus on, so you'll start seeing that metaphoric McLaren in your life show up a lot more too.
Wow. Well, that is so awesome, Ryan. As always, you're amazing. And I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and share that knowledge and just really, reminding us to stay focused and not allow the force of averages to bring us down. So thanks so much.
Awesome. Yeah, not always the sexiest thing to talk about.
No,
like I just really gave you folks the game. Like, if you'll just follow those steps that I laid out, I'm telling you, that's the whole reason that I'm here in the position I'm in now. So
definitely, that G code is a playbook that many of us need to implement in our lives and see it change. So awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Unleash Your Inner Legend. For more inspiration, make sure to subscribe by going to unleashyourinnerlegend.com. We'll see you guys next week.